Hello and welcome again to the Original Intelligence Podcast, where in every episode, we like to just get right into life as much as possible, in as many ways as possible, to celebrate this great, wondrous allness that we are. And in the next series of episodes, I'm introducing to everybody the Creationship, an intimate relationship with creation, by yours truly. And so I'm going to go through the process. What has done here is it's been outlined are the 7 Principles of Providence. Providence being the arm of life, that God itself, essentially, if God had a hand, Providence would be that hand. And when we get in alignment with the way this hand operates and works, we can then have it work with us and as us far more proficiently than we could win just by fluke or by the sheer force of providence in one's life. But when we consciously influence it, it's a very, very different scenario. We get into more alignment with Source. We're able to breathe a little bit more deeply into life and accept more of what life actually is. But without giving too much of a preamble, maybe what I can do is just read the back of the book, and if you like what you hear, you can continue reading or you continue listening. And from here, we will begin. So welcome to your Creationship. Have you ever wondered why some days everything just seems to fall into place? Or why when you're trying to start something new, everything you need has a way of just showing up? You think these experiences are coincidences or just simply random synchronicities? Think again. What if something is going on behind the scenes, something much more majestic, mysterious, and intimate? What if, without knowing it, you're in a dialogue with creation itself? What if you could hear this unconscious conversation, understand its language, and become an active participant in your life? Welcome to the wondrous world of Providence. The 7 Principles of Providence will help train your body to recognize co-creation in action. It's all about alignment. Once you understand the house rules, so to speak, the rest is history. Life gets great, relationships start to work, finances add up, health advances exponentially, love flows deeply, intelligence soars. If you knew that heaven, or paradise, nirvana, Valhalla, etc., whatever you call heaven. If you knew that heaven is right here, right now, what would you do with your life? I invite you to begin an intimate relationship with creation and watch as your life unfolds with magic, beauty, grace, abundance, love, and wisdom. This day and every day for the rest of your life. This is your Creationship. And if you're wondering who I am, I'm an author, speaker, healer, culinary artist, permacultural designer, and herbal consultant, and I essentially devote all of my life in some way, shape, and form to this stuff. And I try to share it with everyone I come across. It all comes down to just a simple idea, and that's beginning an intimate relationship with creation. And by intimate, I'm not talking about, the let's get down and jiggy with it. That's not what I mean by intimate. I mean intimate as in we're letting the whole world in. We're letting ourselves be completely vulnerable and exposed to that which is allness. But at the same time, it then exposes itself in its fullness to us. No walls, but yet walls are had. No worries, yet worries are solved. The ones that are there. For whatever reason, there is this oxymoronic process, this is sort of polar-based phenomena that starts to happen. But anyway, I'm treading a bit far into the future here. We'll cover this and far much more as we begin. So if you feel interested, the next few minutes is going to be the introduction, and the next series of episodes is going to be each consecutive chapter. So I invite you to enjoy. An introduction to the Creationship. William Blake. To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. Foreverland. Infinity. It's a wondrously pregnant concept planted in the fertile soil of the human imagination, full of the vast possibilities of our wildest dreams, yet so dauntingly boundless that it often frightens the untempered onlooker. The unending fields of possibility and the unyielding peaks of potential are intimidating enough that many truth-seekers soon avert their gaze, choosing to muse upon the less menacing landscapes that are easier to scale, define, and confine. But those who brave the journey across the lands of the infinite are overcome by a joyful exuberance known only to those who have personally endured the natural rites of passage. Infinite awareness is exclusively entrusted to God, an awareness that includes but transcends our own localized awareness. But even though the totality of infinite awareness is reserved for the quote-unquote highest perceiver, whatever this enigmatic presence is, it is through our personal relationship with this mysterious marauder, this joyful jester, this ambient aristocrat, this grandiose grandmaster, that we become a close friend with all that is. No matter what we call this Godhead, the experience of its presence is the same for everyone. Terence McKenna, late American ethnobotanist, author, and lecturer, says of this experience, "Nature loves courage. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up." This is the trick. This is what all these teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done. By hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a featherbed. So if you're reading this now, you're likely a pioneer. Or if you're listening to this at this moment, you're likely a pioneer. With the large stores of courage of somebody who has faced the dragon and won liberation. The kind of person who has the tenacity to be the change that you want to see in the world. Someone other people consult for guidance. You're the kind of person who's willing to look into anything it takes to live a great life. If any of these statements are true about you, then you also have large stores of joy that run deep in your heart. And you're willing to show it whenever the opportunity arises. This is the kind of charismatic character that is rarely tempered through idle leisure. Although a certain level of focused downtime is often an essential tool, developing this kind of character, it requires a relatively high baseline stage of awareness. And high-level stages of awareness come at the price of personal investment. This investment is a labor of love involving the trials and tribulations of life's ups and downs. And this allows our true potential to break through the shell of our cultural programming. We find the courage to live our convictions by repeatedly surmounting the opposition we face in our daily lives. If you've been exposed to the life-changing effects of great joy, then you also know the woe of sorrow, loss, and fear. After all, these are the unavoidable experiences that we must endure, however briefly, at certain stages of development. This is all woven into the duality of human experience. After all, without sorrow, the heights of joy we are capable of are hindered. They often feel pale or are even overlooked altogether. And yet, without joy, our lives feel deflated, full of worthless strings of events that only fill our time rather than enrich our lives. This is simply the nature of polarity. This paradox is often ignored. People would rather avoid the pangs of sorrow altogether, opting rather for a life of relative opulence and perennial joy. And after all, why wouldn't we? Pain is not a fun experience. Sorrow is an uninvited guest at life's party. But without the contrast of sorrow in our experiences, joy has nothing to cast itself upon, and it can lose its luminosity. As you'll see, there is a way to experience life outside of this dualistic pendulum of experience. We can dip our feet into the waters of the infinite and be forever changed by its timeless current. The wellspring of wisdom, love, power, and bliss is flowing all around you right now. It's all just a matter of perspective. Before we begin, there is an assumption that you must, in some way, shape, or form, agree to entertain. You must address it with some degree of seriousness within your willful consciousness to get full value from the following pages. But not in blind faith. I invite you to ponder its depths for yourself. It will lay the groundwork for everything else in this book and in your life to follow. This trifold assumption is this: the universe is intelligently conscious, unconditionally caring, and personally interactive. I know, Sam Harris would turn a deeper shade of red just reading this, and for good reason. These are imagined truths. Where, after all, is the evidence of this? Justifiably, he's loath to allow a loose descriptive term like a caring universe to slip past. But even so, this is an idea that I find worth looking into more thoroughly because there are many indications that our localized subjective experience can include such a reality, as strange as this may seem. When I raise the idea of a caring universe, most people presume that humans are in the center of this care. However, this is not the case. We are cared for, yes, but certainly not exclusively. And this is the subtle difference. As you'll soon see, the caring aspect of this grand body of everything is not people-centered, just as the Earth is not the pivot of the universe, as we once believed. Human needs are part of the greater good, of course, but if we act, in all innocence, like a disease to the planet and its inhabitants, we may be treated as such and dealt with accordingly by the larger cosmic body. A comet, for instance, could wipe the planet clean of human life, forever removing the human species, along with many others. And yet, there is an argument to be made that this catastrophe could be aligned with a broader collective good that may only become apparent upon further scrutiny. Who knows? The comet could have prevented a far worse calamity, like, say, humans blowing up the planet entirely with an advanced technology, or, something to that effect. In any case, the idea of a comet destroying humanity in one fell swoop quickly puts things into perspective and could be the beginning for us of a more integrated set of behaviors. We are one global body and we need to act as one. We need enough humility to put ourselves permanently into a state of empathy towards others, human or otherwise. Now, this comment isn't something that is meant to be an analogy to create fear or suggest that we're in any way, shape, or form deserved of any kind of disastrous calamities. It's simply to suggest that it's time for us to put ourselves outside of the center of thinking that this whole reality is built for us, by us, and around us. It's meant to be something that is far more cohesive than this. What if you could have a dialogue with the cosmos in such a way as to co-create reality the same way that you might, say, order your favorite pizza? What if you had the capacity to behaviorally program your reality through conscious participation to co-create a wonderful life? What if we were in a constant biofeedback loop with the planet and had the ability to rapidly evolve our behavior, mentally, physically, rationally, and spiritually? What if heaven were a state of consciousness that, once initiated, allowed the co-creative collaboration of humanity to manifest utopia here on Earth? What if our interaction with other creatures formed a network of wisdom more powerful than any supercomputer that we could ever imagine? What if we were truly the co-creators of our reality? This is the reason for this book. We all have the capacity to live up to our objective excellence and to experience subjective excellence. Subjective excellence is your idea of greatness, whereas objective excellence is what actually is great, regardless of our thoughts, opinions, or beliefs. For instance, your body requires specific nutrients to be healthy regardless of your personal beliefs. As long as you take action on what your body objectively needs, as, say a daily dose of vitamin D, for instance, you can also experience a sense of subjective well-being. It's only when your opinion of what is real or true overshadows what actually is real and true that we get into trouble. It's all about being able to have both. First, you must understand the objective truth, and then you can interact in ways that allow your personal subjective experience to be great. Our responsibility is simple. Get into alignment with nature's rules, objective reality, as they apply to human activity. We must act individually and collectively in a way that honors our highest objective capacities. And we have many objective capacities that we just simply don't tap into, often because we're unaware of them. Our ability to consciously co-create our world is one of those. This is why the principles found in part 2 of this book are so powerful. They align us with our best behaviors as human beings living on a polycultural planet. The depth of the trifold assumption that, of course, that the universe is intellectually conscious, unconditionally caring, and personally interactive is as perplexing as the universe itself. Unraveling the mysteries of a conscious and participatory universe is the work of the ages, not a single generation, let alone a single book like this. But we can at least participate in this conversation. It's not the intention of this book to unlock the great mysteries of this grand enigma or anything like that. However, through your own contemplation, you will become aware of just how powerful this one key ingredient in life really is. It opens the doors to a reality so vast and wondrous that you have to experience it for yourself to believe it. I was uncomfortable with this notion once too. It challenges almost everything our society is based on. Nonetheless, it holds true. That is, our connection to the universe is as deeply personal an experience as any can be. It's the intimate relationship that we have with creation itself. This is our creationship with all of life that infuses every ounce of our being with the embrace of the one and only Godhead. Again, this is not a dogmatic treatise on what the ultimate life of truth is. It's just simply a dissertation, equal parts personal observation, allegorical imagery, anecdotal experiences, spiritual intuition, and of course scientific facts. Much has been learned throughout history about the truth of our existence. There are discoveries happening every day that bend or even break the mold of traditional thinking. Used as tools for navigating reality, these discoveries could help launch humanity into an area of co-creative sovereignty in our world. This is a very exciting time to be alive, but there's much work to be done if we're to transcend the imbalances of our current age. The time for personal responsibility in the world is well past due. The potentially catastrophic circumstances of our current world broadcast a clarion call to action. This book is going to provide you with the latest methods of using your already inherent, if understood, tools for co-creating your reality. There are not new tools. These have been part of our potential since our human beginnings. But like that annoying experience we've all had where something is right in front of us, but we just can't see it until someone points it out, we've been overlooking some of the most obvious and empowering truths about our world. And that's precisely what this book is about, and that is liberating us from our outdated reality navigating systems and upgrading our capacities to better reflect our modern understanding of the world. And to begin, in light of the journey that you've already made, as a gesture of recognition and respect, I celebrate your passage through the depths of sorrow and the heights of joy that you've been through. I stand humbled. I bow my head and offer my heart in service. Thank you for everything that you've gone through to get to here and where you are today. You're deeply valued. Louise Hay, author and founder of Hay House Publishing, she once reflected, she says, "Remember that in the vastness of life, all is perfect, whole, and complete, and so are you." I know you deeply because at our core, we're all essentially the same. We all have the same core needs for love, life, freedom. We all want to enjoy our lives in one way or another, and the way we go about this is the only real difference between one person and another. Many of us live lives of quiet desperation, just hoping that we can find the strength to continue our journey through the challenges that we meet along our paths. And this really is only the result of a socio-cultural sleight of hand, because it's very easy to be tricked into living a lifestyle based on an errant worldview that doesn't produce great living conditions, especially when that lifestyle becomes a cultural norm. Even so, the impact that these challenges can have on our lives is often permanent, and for a good reason. They're here to bring us to the edge of a reality so that we can finally experience the bliss of life in its fullness in all of our moments, once and for all. It's just beyond our borders. In the world of form, the heights of joy follow close upon the pangs of dismay as the pendulum of duality swings gracefully back and forth, traversing its perennial path through time. This is simply how it works in the world of dualistic causality. You may recognize this experience by another name. It's known in most spiritual circles as karma. Whatever we call it, the good news is that the negative aspect of this experience are more or less a side effect of our perspective rooted in our modern-day illusory living. As author, doctor, and visionary speaker Deepak Chopra suggests, karma is only a space-time causality. Your real self resides non-locally. And it's entirely within the range of human possibilities to experience a reality from this place of awareness. Being aware of our non-local selfhood while still experiencing causality and karma is not as exotic an experience as you may at first suspect. At a certain level, it's an experience as natural as walking. What prevents us from collectively experiencing this state of awareness is really quite simple. Much of what we do in our modern world is almost completely disconnected from any semblance of our nature. This isn't a bad thing or even an unnatural thing. It's just simply a thing. It's the outward expression of our fluctuating collective experience of emotions, thoughts, expectations, and even unconscious physiological functions related to the body, mind, and spirit. Stubborn as an old donkey, we continually act out our personal, family, communal, national, and global stories, whether they have any basis in truth or not. It can be hard to face the truth of existence because we're psychologically naked standing in its presence. There's nothing buffering us from its bright rays of reality. Instead, we continue to live our lives through our beliefs, even if they are B-LIE-FS, be lives. In many respects, this is the root cause of our personal human suffering, and thus the affliction eventually doled out to the rest of the world through our inharmonic thoughts, feelings, and actions arises. It's quite clear, looking at the way our world has been collectively moving, that our systems are flawed in their alignment with truth. They are based on partial truths at best and isolated local arrangements that only serve small portions of the greater whole. We need to sober up and look at the truth of our experience. Even though suffering can be part of our everyday life, it doesn't have to be, at least not in any negative sense that brings us unnecessary pain or misfortune. With practice, it's possible to include this previously unwanted part of our reality, quote-unquote suffering, into a much larger, all-encompassing context that transcends the notion of suffering altogether. Pain simply becomes a notch on our inner barometer of relative experience, a sort of necessarily early warning signaling a problem is at hand, like a burn. It's a lesson we become quickly attuned to so that we can get back to enjoying our lives and making better choices, not reveling in our suffering. In this book, you will find a series of simple-to-apply principles that, when practiced with purpose, can align you with unified living. It's nothing fluffy or far out there unless that's what you need it to be. It's something to start the engines for those of you looking to accelerate your alignment with abundance, wealth, health, love, joy, and overall satisfaction with life. This book will help you begin to transcend the limitations of duality while still enjoying the everyday experiences of your beautiful and unique life. Duality is the state of awareness that keeps us in a mindset of separation, up, down, black and white, ones and zeros. Socially, it can get even more elaborate with more triune type systems like me, you, and them, or I, it, and us, or ego, id, and superego. Once we understand the role duality is playing, it allows us to go much deeper than simply resolving disagreements between friends or halting wars of passion between opposing forces. We can use it to navigate the waters of infinite diversity with relative ease for the benefit of all. You have the capacity to unveil your inner being. And when you begin to lift the curtain of your worldly illusions, you're exposed to a truly wondrous, mysterious persona, the integrated self. It's a self of vast creative power and potential, capable of stewarding entire universes, once you understand what that really means. As an aside, and before we dive in, I'd like to offer a quick note of caution. This book is going to encourage you. This book is going to engage you on many levels. It has immediate psychoactive effects. If you read with an open mind and an open heart, it will allow you the freedom to co-create the reality that you're here to create, and perhaps for the first time in your life. The perspectives you glean from the world you immerse yourself in have more of an impact on your state of consciousness than you may realize. To get the most benefit from this book, you might consider reading it while sitting outside in nature on your patio or perhaps beside a sunlit open window. The idea is to immerse yourself in an environment as close to natural as you have available. The wisdom contained in these pages is kind of like the finger pointing at the moon. It's not the moon itself or the experience of it. That's up to you. The principles outlined in the following chapters are like a rope tethered to a rock wall. If scaling the precipice of life's challenges is your goal, this rope is a way to ensure safe passage across rough terrain. In no way is it the end of the message. It's not really even the message itself. As you will see, the message of truth is found intimately woven into every iota of life in the universe. It just simply requires your lovingly lucid interpretation. This book is not the final solution to any of your problems, because you already have those. They're within your dreams. This is a little different. After all, who wants to be handheld and spoon-fed all the time? We don't need more help, we need more empowerment. We don't need more crutches, we need more tools. We don't need to be told what to do, we need to be provided principles so that we can achieve greatness ourselves on our own terms. This book is a guiding light to brighten your path as you traverse the uncharted territories of your mind, heart, and spirit. It's here to help you see your finger as you point yourself in the direction of your immense creative capacity so that you can fully engage with your life once and for all, the way you were designed to live it. This is assuming, of course, that you haven't already figured out how to do that yourself, because, of course, you very well may have. It's built into the system. If your life is already in alignment with this higher truth, then this book acts as an accelerant. It will help you refine your edge, dial in your dreams, and get that roaring fire of your purpose ablaze with passion and charisma, forever changing the way that you participate in co-creation. There's many roads to the experiences that we want to have in our life, and as many ways to traverse them. The idea here is to provide an updated map of the territory, or an internal compass that allows you to experience for yourself the incredible effects of tapping into your God-given capacities. The truth is, you're the living message of life itself. You might not realize it fully yet. However, if you're really listening to your inner guidance, you'll be led to the perfect circumstances, the ideal relationships, the right opportunities, the clearest pathways, and the most potent truths every single time that you intended. When all is said and done, you're the one who gets to co-create your reality. You are the one who is the real embodiment of truth. No book can replace the infinite stores of love, wisdom, and power nestled deep within your being. After all, once the universe unveils itself to you, it becomes abundantly clear that you're built of the same God stuff as the rest of the universe. Everything in the universe is contextual, experienced from any one of a dazzling array of possible perspectives, but propelled and governed by the same quote-unquote house rules. The best part is that you're in the driver's seat, and you have been all along. The problem is that the car of global culture is full of intoxicated passengers, and you've let them take the wheel. They, intoxicated by their own self-interest, fear, willful ignorance, as they follow the tail lights of those before them, the problem is that the car of global culture is full of intoxicated passengers, and you've let them take the wheel. They, intoxicated by their own self-interest, fear, and willful ignorance as they followed the taillights of those before them, have landed us all in the proverbial ditch. The point here is that it was the unlawful behavior of the intoxicated passengers, paired with your own misguided decision to give them the steering wheel of your life, that we all ended up in this current global situation, passengers and driver. We've given away our power. We've outsourced our love, we've relegated our spirituality to the halls of dogma, we've entrusted our collective wisdom to the privileged few, and in doing so, we've now all but lost sight of our individual responsibility to our own personal development. This is true on every level of our lives, personally, locally, nationally, and globally. The secret, if ever there was one, is that your personal power is simply stored up. It's woven into the fabric of the story of your life. You're spinning the clothing of your own liberation, or entrapment, for that matter, with the words and ideas that you use to tell the story of your experience. With practice, through reflection, expression, and expansion, we can begin to unravel the higher truths that were bundled into the yarn of our perceptions. This unraveling of the higher truth allows your real power, love, and wisdom to flow through you more fully, opening up the more mysterious potentialities of being that arise from these higher states. The same holds true for families, communities, regions, nations, cultures, and the world as a whole. In this book, you'll learn the more important art of feeling into the experience of both yourself and others so that you can live in greater alignment with the totality of the collective good. You will begin to unravel your connection with all of life, one relationship at a time, beginning with the one you have with yourself. You'll unlock and begin using your hidden potentials, the ones you always knew you had but got tricked into giving up by societal pressure of a system that didn't really listen to what you needed. Now, when you get it right and you have your life dialed into the subtlety of truth, you'll then even tap into your superpowers. And this isn't even necessarily a special thing. Again, at this higher level of living, the experience of embodying your inherent superpowers is just as natural as breathing. So on that note, take a deep breath, ground yourself in your heart, and let's dive right in. Let's have some fun as we unlock the perplexing potentials of the human capacity, one experience at a time. You know, what's interesting about this introduction is that it still resonates so true with me. In reading it back this umpteenth time, there are some things that I'd love to slightly, shift or add or things like that. But what's nice about this is that the core of it, it's driving forth this core objective perception. This core objective truth, and that is that we are all connected to something that is far greater than we've ever imagined. And when we begin, like infants, to learn this new language of love, of life, of wisdom, of peace, we get to really understand more of what it is that we are. And the magic that starts to happen is phenomenal. And magic isn't really the right word because it conjures up images of witches and wizards and all that kind of stuff. And that's really not what this is. It's a reality matrix. It's the thing that we are doing. It's the thing that we're creating. It's the thing that we are in the midst of creation through us. And so with that is the introduction. If you are interested in what you've heard so far, there's 18 chapters. And I hope you have some ideas, some feedback, some maybe personal stories of how you related to such a thing as this. It's a fun journey that I've noticed so far, especially once I've got actually some interesting stories maybe I'll tell that they weren't able to be published in the book because they happened right after I published the book. It was like an acceleration of synchronicity and providence and all these other lovely things because I was so up close and personal with the principles for so long, that I was naturally practicing them, something that I wouldn't necessarily always do. And so, I just because the principles are here in this book and they've been outlined by me doesn't necessarily mean that they've always been applied perfectly by me. I'm just as fallible and I'm just a human as we all are. So human or otherwise. I mean, whatever. There's a lot of mystery in this world, put it that way. The point is that have fun with this and explore it and delve into the things that really inspire your essence, your je ne sais quoi. Like let it bring that through you. Bring that weird tingle or that smile or that experience of just mystery again. Almost like, life has adventure inherently involved in it. So, many blessings to you. Till next time.